Hey everyone, it's Ed Graney and Michael Gehlken returning to you from Wembley Stadium live in London, where Michael today, it was never a contest. Seattle came in and just took it to the Raiders, 27-3 final in front of almost 89,000 people, which is a record for these international series games. Not a good showing by the Raiders anyway. Let's start with Derek Carr. He never had a chance. Go over this offensive line issues they have. From the beginning, I mean, there was just no way to move the ball consistently.
No, and you go into this game and boy, there's going to be a long-winded answer because it's such a long-winded problem. But you go into this game, you have left tackle Colton Miller, rookie first-round pick, is dealing with a grade 2 MCL sprain. He's got a big, bulky brace on his right knee. Really shouldn't be in this game, but he's playing for the second straight start with that injury. At left guard, Kelechi Osemele, a Pro Bowler, is unavailable because of his own right knee injury. So John Feliciano starts in his place. Feliciano exits on Sunday with a ribs injury, does not return. So Justin Murray, who'd played 0 NFL regular season snaps before here on Sunday, who played not at all for the Raiders in training camp. He joined the team in September. And at center, you have Rodney Hudson. And guard, you have Gabe Jackson. They've been dealing with week 1 ankle and pectoral injuries, respectively. And then at right tackle, by the way, our rookie third-round pick out of North Carolina, A&T, still very much learning how to play at this level. All 5 of those, that's not the 5 you want here in Wembley Stadium. And Derek Carr sacked 6 times, under duress, seemingly constantly, had to make plays happen with his legs as a scrambler. Throw in wide receivers Amari Cooper and Seth Roberts exiting with concussions. And as you said, as John Gruden said, as was apparent to everybody around the world, certainly here in Europe, Derek Carr had no chance.
No, he didn't. You know it's a long day for the Raiders when their best offensive player is Derek Carr scrambling. That's not good. You don't want him scrambling, and when he's your best play as a runner, it's going to be a long day. So 27-3 the final. That brings the Raiders' record to 1-5 entering their bye week. Michael, let's get to this bye week now. They're 1-5. They are not going in any way a positive form with all these injuries. You and I spoke about the word rebuilding. Is it worse than Gruden perhaps thought? There were pregame reports out there that Amari Cooper is now on the trade block, that he's looking to trade people, more people. We already know Khalil Mack got traded. Where is this team at 1-5 headed into the bye week as they look towards a season where, we're talking about after the game, who can they really beat at this point?
I think John Gruden is convinced the Raiders are not close, and I think he really feared that going into this thing. I think he believed that. When he looked at recent draft classes, he was underwhelmed. I think maybe he's become increasingly underwhelmed, increasingly open to listening about interest for Amari Cooper. When it comes to a guy like Carl Joseph, the Raiders' 2016 first-round draft pick, he's not sniffing the starters in terms of depth chart, and that part is because of a hamstring injury. He's missed the past couple games, but it's not about that, though, because even before the hamstring injury, he was somebody who wasn't figuring into their plans. And so we've seen a number of changes, a number of personnel, a number of draft picks under Reggie McKenzie who've been cast off here under John Gruden because Gruden's not convinced that they are part of the future. I don't think that is changing. I do think more changes are coming, more high-profile former draft picks will go. Whether it's Amari Cooper, we'll see. I mean, he had a concussion. It's certainly too soon to talk about him. Seems inappropriate to talk about him. I think the key thing is, as Gruden pointed out, is he okay? The Raiders are not close. They are 1-5. They're going into the bye week, not at all where they need to be. Will this season end in the playoffs? Almost assuredly not. This team has a lot of room to grow, and when the offensive line certainly is as banged up as it has been, it's ugly, and that's certainly what it was on Sunday.
Well, perhaps the week off will give a lot of those guys time to heal. They'll be back at it after the bye week at home against the Colts, also struggling themselves. But at this point, again, looking at the games ahead, what we saw today, it's really a stretch to find many people they can beat. Perhaps if some guys get healthier, that will change. For now, though, 27-3, Seattle destroys the Raiders here in London. For all of us here at Wembley Stadium, Ed Graney, Michael Gehlken, Heidi Fang, check back for all our reports at The Vegas Nation and also ReviewJournal.com. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Michael and Ed. I'm Gilbert Manzano, and here are 3 takeaways from the Raiders' loss in London. Number 1, missing offense. The Raiders decided to leave late for London, and they forgot their offense in California. The Raiders only managed 3 points for a season-low 185 yards on 56 plays. Derek Carr had a terrible game. He fumbled twice. He only threw for 142 yards. Marshawn Lynch, not so much better, 45 yards on the ground for 13 carries. So overall, the Raiders' defense struggled against Ken Norton's defense in Seattle. Ken Norton, familiar name, former D coordinator for the Raiders. So for John Gruden and his offense, it's back to the drawing board because they're not figuring it out on offense. A week ago against the Chargers, they only had 294 yards, so they're getting worse. Number 2, the injury bug. The Raiders entered London with a banged-up offensive line, and it showed on the Wembley field today. They allowed 6 sacks. Things got worse when John Feliciano, who already was replacing Kelechi Assembly, got hurt. So the Raiders were down to their third string at the right guard position. It was not going well. Derek Carr had no time. Colton Miller was getting killed by Frank Clark, so O-line did not help out. And the wide receivers, they're also banged up. Amari Cooper took a big hit in the first half. Seth Roberts did as well late in the game, so they were both on the concussion protocol. So Derek Carr could be down 2 big wideouts. But luckily for the Raiders, the bye week came at the right time. So for the O-line and the receivers, they can get healthy during that bye week. Number 3, Russell Wilson magic. He had 2 early touchdowns for a 14-0 lead, and it kind of felt the game was over right there when Russell Wilson was getting that magic going. He lost the ball on one play, picked it up, and threw it to David Moore for a touchdown. So Russell Wilson got it going. It wasn't like Paul Gunther's guys were getting a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. They did get a sack and an interception, but other than that, Russell Wilson did whatever he wanted. And again, for the cornerbacks, Garyon Collins did not play. Worley got most of the snaps, but he got an interception. But other than that, it was a bad game for the secondary, and Paul Gunther cannot figure it out. Maybe he can during the bye week. That's it for Week 6, where John Gruden's guys dropped to 1-5 on the season. Next week, the Raiders will be off with their bye week before returning to host the Colts in Week 8. So, from Michael, Ed, and myself, Gilbert Manzano, thank you for watching. This is Vegas Nation.